We are live on a special Wednesday night for the DadBodd podcast, episode number 108. That's right, folks. And I am joined today with one of the OGs of the DadBodd podcast. He's also on the Circa Millions NFL show, which we will be live on Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you check us out for our official plays for the conference championship. But we will be talking about the conference championship once we get through somewhere in this podcast. But I want to introduce the man, the myth, the legend, the odds fellow. Go check him out. What's up, my friend?
It may still be football season, but I'm still mourning the death of the Dallas Cowboys. So I've switched to full Yankee mode. Throwback to the Savages in the box. Aaron Boone comment, great hat that I'm happy and pleased to have. But we will talk football. We're not giving up completely. I know we're going to get into those games, but I'm just happy to be here on a winning Wednesday. Got a fun show, a couple NBA picks right ahead of that 10 p.m. tip. So make sure you listen, watch, retweet, share, like, and then those picks will be coming before tip-off.
Yeah, I mean, talking about the divisional games here. I mean, let's get into the show here. Let's go right to the segment of what we call a little NFL talk.
Go, go, go!
Yeah, NFL talk. So we're going to start with a divisional playoffs recap here. 4 games, less excitement about this one. Maybe the last game had a little bit of excitement in that one because it was a closer game. But these games were boring, to say the least. But I want to just talk a little bit about some of these games here. Jacksonville, KC, final score in this one, 27-20. Backdoor cover, which got me a little bit extra cash on that one, made me 2-0 on the day. Mahomes' injury was a concern. Saw him coming out of the press conference and no limp, as they say, but you never know when that ankle gets twisted up by a Hubbard tackle or something like that. What are your thoughts? Do you have any thoughts on this game at all, or what did you learn as you watched that game?
That Travis Kelce might be the most unstoppable force of all time.
Well, you would have learned that like years and years to come. But yes, I think he's a consistent player.
14 catches,
is,
right? Yeah, 14 catches in this one. I think he kept them going. I think what surprised me, although there was probably some stuff that covered it up. Chad Henne moved the ball a little bit with that offense. Not to say that that's what they want to rely on. I think against the Bengals or a matchup here against Joe Burrow and the Bengals, but it was interesting to see. Right, I almost wish they would have pulled Mahomes, maybe kept him out of the mix, see if he could get more rest and not do damage to it playing on it right away because it looked bad. Right, like really him not being able to hand the ball off even after halftime, after you knew that thing got shot up, was completely numb. I thought he'd have a little bit more of a spark, be able to move a little bit better, and then that started deteriorating pretty quickly. So hopefully, just with the high ankle sprain and being out a week and looking at this the right way, they can get him back on the field. But it's a big if,
Yeah, it's a big if. I mean, he did practice today. I did see that.
Good sign.
He in the press conference, he didn't seem to have any cast or anything that was on his ankle. I think he kind of wanted to show that he was ready to go. But it did show that, put Henne in that lineup, they were still able to move that ball with that offense. I don't really have any concerns. He was 22 for 30, 195, 2 touchdowns, 0 INTs versus Jacksonville in that game. But yeah, it's going to be a beneficial factor. I saw the line did go up to 2.5 at one point. It's down to one.
It's starting to come back. Yeah, I even saw somebody tweet earlier, the Philly Godfather, OG Twitter, sports better. I think he said at some offshores it's flipping to Chiefs -1. So I don't know if that's coming around and you're going to start seeing some of the movement all the way back. That's probably tied to the practice today, if I had to guess, right? The fact that he was out there.
Yeah, I think like the announcement that he was out there practicing on Wednesday, and then after the press conference, a lot of the videos came out of him not limping. But if you're actually on the legal books, I did see FanDuel, I saw MGM. I looked at those, and they the +1s are still out there.
Right?
I
think plus 105. If you're gonna play it at that point, you just grab the little extra on the money line.
Yep. The best line that I saw was KC money line -110 as it stands today on Wednesday. I'm thinking that this line is not going to get any better. We'll see how it goes. He may roll that thing in practice, but I have a feeling that they're going to really take it easy on his ankle there, so he's ready by game time.
Yeah, I think you're probably looking at it being anywhere from where it is now to maybe a flip into that -1, 1.5 the other way. So you're going to be right around that pick 'em going back and forth for the rest of the week, I think.
Yep. Case Slater had a good question in the chat. He said, as a guest, I was like, do you feel like the limitation will really hamper his mobility though? The more hits that he takes, the more he feels. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I agree with that. It's like, I mean, he's walking around, he's not limping right now, granted, but like for somebody who's personally had a high ankle sprain due to sports and had to play on it, granted it was basketball. You get that stepped on, you get that touch just a little bit, it kind of aggravates the injury. But then again, the NFL, I don't know how serious this high ankle sprain is. I mean, you can tape that thing up pretty good and still feel okay, but you'll always have it in your mind. So maybe you'll see a lot of Mahomes kind of gravitating towards more of a pocket passer, and he's gonna it's gonna limit his mobility some. And you actually saw
what I will say is because I agree with you, I do think it takes mobility away from Mahomes, which is a huge thing for him. He runs for a lot of first downs. He breaks the back of the defense. You saw this a little bit against the Jacksonville game, and credit to Jacksonville for how they did hang in, mostly offensively, defensively. And I don't know enough off the top of my head there, sack and rush and defensive line stats against, a good Chiefs offensive line. But that's the point I want to make. I think, yes, the mobility hurts, but the Chiefs have invested a lot more since that Bucs loss in the Super Bowl in an offensive line. So they do have better protection. You saw some of that when Mahomes did come back. He still had all day to throw sometimes when he could move around. So that's going to be really key. You got to look at how Jacksonville versus a Cincinnati defense that now can come after him maybe. Does that change things a little bit? But I think you have a good line here, to protect him a little bit.
Yeah, you make good sense. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the game anyway. So I think everything's going to be predicated on how Mahomes does with the ankle injury. Moving on to the next game that was on the board here, Giants Philly. It was a late night special game on Saturday night, 38-7. Basically, a lot of the stats that I gave on that one was kind of how it all predicated out. I mean, Philly just rolled on them, stomped them, took advantage of the bad rush defense of the New York Giants, put up 268 yards rushing, 6.1 yards per carry, and only had 148 yards passing in that game. I thought that was kind of interesting. 60 for 24. That was probably the most interesting stat here. And then I'll get into the games for the NFL Conference Championship, but there is a pattern that I have witnessed or actually saw with the statistics that kind of see where Philly's prep comes for these games. I know this is one that you said you wanted nothing to talk about. Do you have anything to say on that one?
No, I'm just surprised. I mean, you were right? I probably leaned, and I think I said it on our Sunday show. I put some shekels down on the Giants personally. Maybe I'm the mush, or maybe you were just correct. But I was just surprised. I expected a better prepared effort against the division foe, especially from Brian Dable. He's Coach of the Year candidate. He's now one of the 3 finalists. I don't know if he's the favorite or not, but he's definitely one of the 3 finalists that was announced by the NFL recently for the award show. And they didn't look prepared. Even him coaching. I mean, I think they went for it early after a sack. It was a really strange series. They might have been down 7-0 at that point. But it was probably like 3rd and 3. I think they took a sack to push it to like 4th and 7 or 4th and 8 around midfield, no man's land. They went for it and then didn't get it. And then the Eagles went right back down the field and scored. And from that point on, you kind of felt like, God, this might be it, right? But then there was other times where he was a little bit gun shy. Yeah, Pat Kappa just threw it in the chat. Maybe we can throw it up there. Dable got out coached. Agreed. And I was really surprised. Sirianni is obviously, he's been a Coach of the Year candidate the last few years too. He deserves a ton of credit, but I just didn't expect that out of Dable. I expected a more prepared effort, and that was my biggest takeaway. So Giants had a great season, a lot to build on, but I was surprised.
Yeah, I think Philly just basically said, we're going to take away the pass from you, and then we're just going to run the ball as much as possible on you because you can't stop the run. You're the worst team in the NFL at stopping the run. And like I said, I'll get to that in a second. But I think he just had the game plan was kind of already spelt out for you. All you had to do was look at DVOA, and then you just kind of run your game plan that way. And then, granted, a lot of stuff happened on the defensive side, turnovers, what have you. They went up 14-0 really easy, and then the game just got away from them. But yeah, just absolutely smacked. And that, that I think the Giants winning a playoff game is probably something that they can carry over to the next season, kind of fix the problem with the rush defense, whether it be by free agents or the draft. But you have a good nucleus of players there, so all you try to do is maintain the free agent.
Their problem is going to be how much money they have to invest in Dimes and Saquon if they sign both. Personally, I think they should sign Danny Dimes to whatever reasonable deal they can and let Saquon walk. I just think the running backs are, unfortunately, he's very talented. I know he cares about the city, but you just can't invest that kind of money. I'm living it with Zeke and the Cowboys.
Yeah, I think running backs in theory over like a 4 to 5 year period are pretty expendable. They're pretty universal, and though it depends on what your game plan is. I think Dable can adjust getting somebody in there on a cheaper price. Moving on to Cincinnati, Buffalo in this one. This is one that I like, me personally, and I don't know if you were on the same side on this one, Odds, but this one I don't know how I capped this game. I read the stats. I thought I had the game planned out in my head, and it went the exact opposite direction. I mean, Cincinnati, 3 offensive linemen out, and they look like the starters.
Do you think the snow mattered? I think I underestimated that the snow might have actually helped that offensive line.
Possibly. I think that might have helped with the footing on that one. I mean, they ran the ball for 172 yards, 5.1 yards per carry. They exposed that defense, and this was a Buffalo defense that was kind of wishy-washy all season long. And then you have like Josh Allen that really that elbow injury. I wonder if that affected his accuracy moving on, because you saw that guys play different from when that injury happened, and then he re-aggravated it. I think against in the Miami game when he tried to throw the elbow drop like the Macho Man off the top rope, and every time you see it bleeding. So I don't know if that kind of affected like his throws. I know his accuracy was just way off in that game.
Yeah, I was surprised too. It just seemed like they could never get it going. But I think the bigger surprise is, like you said, the defense, right? Yeah, they couldn't stop the run all season, but to get smacked in the mouth that way and then not even be able to answer offensively, it was almost like once the wind got knocked out of the sails on one side of the ball, they both kind of caved down to it, right? Because I either expected, because of the weather and the snow and the banged up offensive line, that maybe the defense could keep them in it. But when that started to go south and Cincinnati started moving the ball quickly, then you turn your attention to, all right, Josh Allen, our MVP, maybe he goes and gets it done. And they never did. I don't know if it was emotions and preparation in the last few weeks, but you got to be concerned about just the way this Bills team has been built up, and they're in win now mode, right? So, what happens now? You start getting some of these quarterbacks are going to be on different deals. That's a theme that's out in the media a ton. You have to start restructuring different things. These guys have money tied up in wide receivers, in Stephon Diggs. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Bills do and how they kind of retool, because they've gone the route of trying to compete and beat the Chiefs, and now they can't get by the Bengals.
Yeah. And you saw the difference between them in warmups. I mean, Joe Burrow looked comfortable. He looked collected. He's out there like just throwing like wild passes, doing the spin, like that whole video that you see with the memes.
Might as well had a cigar in his mouth.
Yeah, I mean, he just looked very comfortable. Whereas I don't think Josh Allen was at his most comfortable. He looked very stiff and timid in that one. Now, you mentioned a good point about restructuring for quarterbacks. Let's talk about another quarterback that probably needs to be restructured in this one. This is a game I want to bring the excuse board out for why I lost this bet with the Dallas Cowboys here.
It was the right pick.
I can explain my pick here, folks. Dallas versus San Francisco, final score in this one, 19-12. Many opportunities for Dallas to kind of, at least get the lead or maybe take over the game, especially in the second quarter. But turnovers and mistakes on the special teams, we can talk about that as well. But I felt the Dallas defense is really good. They did a tremendous job. When we talked about capping that game, we said you have to stop the run with the San Francisco 49ers. They held them to 3.5 yards per carry, 312 yards of total offense for the game. So you did your job, and then you have a quarterback that couldn't do his, because they only had 282 yards of total offense, 76 yards on the ground, and 2 egregious picks, in my opinion. I know you're the fan, and you had money on them, which is double jeopardy.
Yeah, usually I hedge. I didn't hedge. I didn't hedge.
What did you take from the game?
Happy with the defense, frustrated as usual with the offense and Mike McCarthy and Dak. Now, I'm not a Dak hater. I do think, I mean, Pat, again, is another good point. 3 quarters, right? It was close. They had their chances, but I'll tell you what sunk them. Similar to what I said about the Giant game earlier, where a play in the first quarter and a series in the first quarter maybe mattered and just kind of gave you what was going to happen the rest of the way. Where Dallas screwed themselves is at the end of the first half, even though they had played a little shaky, you really had a defense that kept San Francisco in check. They kept McCaffrey in check and Debo in check. Purdy was on the run, even though he was very poised. He went down a few times. He was throwing the ball away. He was still making some decent throws, but he was under pressure and under duress, more so than I think you'd seen in this other, 6 or 7 games he had won before that.
Yep.
Instead, I don't know if it was tied to the shaky kicker, which it could have been. It was also a factor in the problem here. Dak throws an interception, so you have a swing here because now you would have at least been going in to maybe kick a field goal or score a touchdown before the half, and you got the ball in the second half. Instead, you come away with no points, you throw the pick, and then San Francisco gets a field goal to end the half. Doesn't seem that big because it's only 3 points, but it's a swing, right? It's a swing and it's momentum and it's a change. And that just left a bad taste in my mouth heading into the second half. And what you saw in the second half was a defense that then started getting broken down slowly but surely. And I give a lot of credit to Shanahan and a good Niners line. They started running the ball better. They started moving it. Then you had one drive that was a complete freak fluke thing that I won't talk about between that fucking
the face catch. Yeah.
And then a couple plays later, remember what happened on that same drive? I've never seen Diggs drop a pick like that.
Oh, yes. When they tipped the ball and it was right. Yes. I couldn't believe that either. That guy that's what he does. He's not a great defender, like one-on-one, but he's a ball hog. Yeah.
I think that drive in the first half was really set them up for a tighter game than it maybe should have been, or a change in the way the game should have been going into the second half. And then the second half, they could never take advantage of those opportunities. And San Francisco put together that one drive that then cemented it. Their defense did the rest. Dak crumbled. McCarthy didn't manage the clock right. Bad all around, right?
Yeah, and you also had a kicker in Robbie Gould that made the kicks, 40 plus in most of these cases. So, and like I said credit to the Dallas defense. I think they played a game to win. Like most defenses, though, if you played that way in most situations, you would win the game.
Yeah,
and I mean, especially when you give away 2 picks and they only got 6 points. I think. Right. I think that's so. It's one of those situations where I completely blame the quarterback decision making on that one. And I normally don't blame like one player, but I can't deny that. And also, by the way, they had a kickoff return right in their hands, and it wasn't that the kicker tackled him; he ran into him, or all he had to do was just sneak outside, and he was housed.
Yeah, it looked like he was almost he didn't know exactly how much room he had on either side and thought he could still just bounce off him quickly and get it, but it was a very weird looking bounce to even try to take him out that way. He never lowered the shoulder. He just kind of like backed in.
But it's almost like he felt like a presence like behind him, whether it's on the right side or the left side. So he felt like if he went one way, he'd get tackled. And it was just I bet he's kicking himself for that one because he had that kickoff return, which would have gotten us cover on that one as well. Just a bad beat for us all around. But hey, all we can do is pull up our bootstraps and move on. So let's go into we're not gonna have any plays for this. We need you to check us out on Sunday. It'll be me, Shark, and the Odds Fellow. So you got 2 out of the 3 watching right now. We're just going to give you a little bit inside of what we're seeing with the game now. So I want to start with the first one that starts at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's the NFC Conference Championship. It's the San Francisco 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles sitting here -2.5. I actually seen some 3s out there if you do some shopping. Over and under this one, I believe, is 46. Any thoughts on this one? Just some notes. I mean, what are you looking at here?
So this is the first game, right? We're going in order? Yeah, it is.
We're going in order.
3 p.m. Eastern. I like how they stagger that time. I mean, look, I don't like the Philadelphia Eagles, but you have to give them credit for the way they came out and played all season long. It is a great matchup. and the way they answered the questions about the injuries and the stretch run where they didn't look very good late in the year. So they definitely played like the team that you saw earlier in the year that was probably the odds-on favorite to come out of the NFC or potentially even win it all if they jumped ahead of some of those AFC teams. I do just think this is a tougher matchup, though. I think you're underestimating the caliber of team that the Cowboys and Niners were compared to the caliber of the team that the Giants were.
Yep.
So don't be, too fooled by the team that looked the best last week, because it doesn't always play out that way. Dallas looked really good against Tampa and then struggled a little bit against San Francisco 49ers because competition matters. So personally, I lean over a little bit. I think you're going to get just some efficient offenses, tough matchups. I want to see how the weather looks in Philly. And then on the side, I just think, I know you're going to mention this a little bit, so I won't step on too much, but I think it's a good matchup for the Niners and what they want to do on offense.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I early
agree with this. Yeah. It's funny when you, and my early take on this one is basically, so I went back and just, you start doing the same things that you do with, we do with every single cap. We kind of look at what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses of each team. And DVOA is a good indicator on this one. So when you actually look at Philly, what was the key to the game in the Philly Giants game? They just took advantage of a bad defensive run. The New York Giants. Philly ran for 6.1 yards per carry, like I said, 32nd in the league as far as defensive DVOA. And then you have San Francisco is ranked number 2 in rushing defense in DVOA, 4th in passing defense. So this is a balanced. It's the best defense in the NFL. So I don't know from an offensive standpoint if you can get away with just kind of taking advantage of one thing or the other. You almost have to play this balanced game and try to figure out where the weaknesses are. It may be taking advantage of a corner, maybe moving AJ Brown around to get the matchups that you want in the passing game. But I haven't really seen Jalen Hurts really get out there and start whipping the ball in the passing game. They've kind of really taken advantage of the run. San Francisco was held to 3.5 yards per carry last week against Dallas. But they've been averaging over 5 yards per carry with CMC. And they're playing the the 21st ranked rush defense in the league. So if there's any advantage that you can take out of the Philly defense, it's running the ball. It's actually hammering the ball, get CMC cooking. And then Brock Purdy is probably in that mode in his passing game where he feels the most comfortable. He doesn't make mistakes. He's very system oriented. He doesn't like to be rushed, but he doesn't take a lot of sacks either. So I think if you can able to run the ball, it's going to make him feel more comfortable, and it's going to open things up with the amount of weapons that this San Francisco defense has.
And one comment that came up in the chat that I like is if you want to throw up Michael on the Eagles minus 1.5. So he's an Eagles guy right now based on the ticket. You're not wrong, right? Second real war with the Cowboys. That was a tough one. The Eagles off a bye, quote unquote bye with the Giants. That's a concern for me, actually, because I don't think Hurts got challenged enough. And I don't know the situation with his injury, right? Obviously, he's had some time to heal and some rest, but that's a throwing shoulder injury. And I'll tell you what Hurts really didn't do against the Giants was he really didn't get hit. He really didn't get challenged. You get a completely different look against the Niners defensive front, led by one of the Bosa brothers, like you mentioned. They start getting after him. Fred Warner starts making some hits. Bosa starts making some hits. What does that do to Hurts? Does that cause him to struggle at all? Does that show us that the injury is maybe worse? That's just speculation from me. I don't know that. But I think it's interesting to see where I don't think he was challenged enough to make you completely comfortable with it.
Yeah, I brought the chat as well as is Bosa healthy? I mean, he's as healthy as he can be. I mean, he just plays like an animal. That's what he's going to do. And for him to not play in this game is egregious to say.
Little hurt or injured.
Yeah, and even if he was, say if he was a little bit, he's going to play in this game. He's still going to be a problem. You're going to have to block him. Yep. This defense is very. There's so many great defensive players on this team. I was like, they all play at a high level right now, so I can't really take that into account.
Yeah, and again, going back to the injury thing, the flip side of it is Lane Johnson healthy? Because he was still limping and moving around a little bit. I think a big kind of emotional uplift to have your leader and him back in the mix when a lot of people didn't think he'd make a lot of the playoffs. But again, a better defensive front, a different game atmosphere now. Does that change for Lane? Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
One more key point before we move into the next game here. So I started looking at I basically started focusing on the run, and I looked at the best defense against the run that the Philadelphia Eagles have faced, because what they did is they just abused the Giants that way. So the best team they faced against the run this year was the Tennessee Titans. Now the Tennessee Titans lost that game 31-10. But if you actually get these stats a little bit more, Philly faced them in December. They were held to 67 yards rushing, 2.8 yards per carry. So when they do face a good rush defense, they do falter. But guess how they're ranked in passing? 28th in the league. So what did Philly do? Philly just said, Jalen Hurts, pass it as much as possible. And guess what he did? He put up 368 yards passing against them, which really astounded the win. You're not going to get away with this 49ers defense, unfortunately. So those are kind of some stats that we're looking at right now. I'm still trying to dance around the Philly angle as well. I try to look at both angles on this one, but we'll give you officials for this game on Sunday, 10 a.m. So make sure you join us there. All right, Cincinnati, KC. We kind of talked about it a little bit. This matchup is they've matched up 3 times in the last year and a half or something like that, and each spread has landed directly at 3 in favor of Cincinnati, winning by 3 in all 3 counts with Joe Burrow. We talked about the Mahomes injury. Is there any other angles that you're seeing with this game?
So you brought it up a little bit. I really want to play up and get behind the revenge factor a little bit, because it's surprising, right? You have the playoff game, which I guess was this game. Was it the divisional or the AFC Championship last year? Is this an AFC?
No, they played regular season too. I think it was 27-24
right
in Cincinnati.
But even so, you got the AFC Championship game last year, right?
Yes.
The Bengals win, and then you had the Bengals regular season win in what was the first revenge game, and now they have a chance to run it back here in the playoffs. And at that point, you're either do the Chiefs and this kind of dynasty type team from the last few years really step up and get itself to another Super Bowl and give itself another chance to win, or do you have just complete and utter domination by the Cincinnati Bengals against those said Kansas City Chiefs? So I would love to get behind the Chiefs here. I've been down on this Bengals team for 2 years and just completely wrong. So I also might just have a terrible read on it. But at some point, I would think the offensive line issues rear its head. But I think the problem is you have Burrow and a very good offense with weapons. They proved they can run the ball, at least last week, against that bad Buffalo defense. And their defense, I think, is significantly underrated, especially some of the adjustments, whatever that means, they make in the second half. They've just been, they hold some of these teams down. So my initial, if you can get Mahomes there, I would love to back the Chiefs, because I do think the revenge factor matters, but I just might be completely undervaluing what Burrow and this team can do.
Yeah, I think the key to this game, you just said it before, is is KC going to be able to put pressure on Joe Burrow? Because he can get sacked. He's not Pat Mahomes dancing out of the pocket doing playground ball. I mean, he does have a scrambling ability, but it's what a good pocket passer scrambling ability is to buy time. I just think that eventually, I think the line's going to catch up to him, whether it be him winning this game and then moving on to the Super Bowl and have to face either the Eagles or the 49ers, or if it's going to be this game. I think Kansas City has the ability to put pressure on the quarterback. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. It's one of those weird games. And then you got to see the fact that what are they going to do with Mahomes, knowing that he has a bad ankle? I mean, are they going to take advantage of that somehow? That could really hurt him. I know Henny really moved the ball, so I'm not really scared of the backup quarterback situation. It's a real tough game right now.
You mentioned the pressure, like just to go in some ESPN stats that I usually like to take a peek at, and this spells it out, right? Pass block win rate, which is the ESPN proprietary stat that measures how often that offensive line from a pass blocking perspective wins the matchup. The Bengals are down at 30th at 50% out of 32 teams. Only 2 teams are worse. The Jags and the Colts were at 49% respectively. You look at the top of that list, and Kansas City's up there at 75% on the offensive line side of things. The problem is when you flip to the defense, and like you mentioned, again, this is just one angle to look at defensive versus offensive lines. The pass rush win rate, so now from the defensive side of the ball, the Bills actually came in slightly higher at 11th at 43% compared to the Chiefs at 15th at 41%. Now, these percentages in the rankings matter, right? Because you're talking about, somewhat flat stats across these teams. And the Bengals on that list are way down too at 37%. So you might have an issue of, again, we talked about the mobility earlier. Maybe the Bengals don't generate enough pressure and the Chiefs can block it, like you saw at that 75% number one, rating. On the other side is the Chiefs also might not be generating enough pressure. So if you give both these guys clean pockets, you're going to get picked apart.
Yeah.
So that might be the X factor, right? Which defensive line actually puts pressure on the quarterback and makes them uncomfortable.
Yeah, and maybe that ankle injury makes him a little bit more of the Joe Burrow type of pocket passer. So we may be seeing a even kill game in this one, and the Lions kind of telling that story right now. I mean, really, you're basically picking a winner right now on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I just don't know which direction the line is going to go once we get to Sunday.
Any gut feel on the total for you there? I think it's a 47.
Yeah,
but that got steamed way. Didn't that get steamed way?
It was
down
48.5. It got steamed down, but I think it was more predicated. A lot of the line movement is all predicated on the fact that like the Mahomes injury is like everybody kind of went that way. I hate to be like, who's going to control the game? That is the factor, because I know what Cincinnati does. Cincinnati is a clock controlled, methodical. I'm gonna waste the play clock all the way down, and I'm gonna move the ball methodically down the field. And they continue to. It's like, what are they, 10 straight on the unders right now? In playoff games. I'd hate to buck that trend. Right. So maybe right now I have this feeling I want to find a way to get to the under, but I'm not there yet because I feel like I just feel like that because of the Mahomes injury, people are going to think that it's more of an under game, and maybe I'm going to get some value on the line once it drops down.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you bet it in game, if it's a slow start, but you never know what happens is these teams can fire late and fire quick.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So that is the NFL talk segment for this one. If you want to go check the plays, like I said, you're gonna have to see us at 10 a.m. And I see 9 of you beautiful bastards that watched us live today. I think up to 11. If you haven't liked and subscribed to the channel, please do that right now to support us, and also share the information to your boys, to your girls, to your wife, to your kids. And keep us in mind. So we are the top show, the sharpest channel on the planet. Before we get into some plays, because we do have some late night degenerate specials that will be coming up here really quick in 20 minutes. I want to make sure we give us a proper ad read to our sponsor.
This podcast is sponsored by Viva Tequila Seltzers.
All right, this podcast is sponsored by Viva Tequila Seltzers. Viva Tequila Seltzers is a refreshing and drinkable hard seltzer, 88 calories, 0 carbs, 0 sugar, and 4.5 ABV. Viva is the perfect drink for your post-game celebrations, and it was created with the active lifestyle in mind. Viva flavors their tequilas perfectly because flavor is the spice of life, and they like their drinks with a little bit of a kick, just like we like to live our lives. Viva flavors perfectly with their artisanal Blanco tequila for a subtle and refreshing drink. Their belief is to live long, live well, and live it up. Hashtag Viva Up. Make sure you go check them out on Twitter at Viva Seltzers. And if you want to go check out their products, they do ship www.vivaseltzers.com, or just Google them on Google. We are back and we are cheering.
La vida.
For sponsor. Basketball talk time.
I think I'm gonna have some Vivas tomorrow.
I actually have one right here. I'm not gonna drink it because I'm gonna save those for Sunday. I got a new shipment. I'm getting another one, and I'll make sure I sent.
That's my favorite flavor.
This is my favorite too. I really like this one. The elderberry is really good. Really good. Yeah. And you don't feel like a hunk of shit the next day too. So
No.
because it's naturally flavored. So late night degenerate specials.
What do
Let's
you got?
talk. Let's go NBA first because mine hits at 11 p.m. tonight. I'm going really late.
Mine's 10, so we got to get to it. We'll get to
Yep.
it quick and dirty. It's the Memphis Grizzlies +3. Maybe a little sprinkle on the money line. Right now, I'm just playing the +3. I might do it. I just think it's a good spot for a Memphis team that I'm very high on. One of these shows we'll get into some futures, but if you look at 538.com, Memphis has a 28% chance of making the NBA Finals and a 15% chance of winning the NBA Finals. Those numbers may seem low, but you got to realize they have to spread that thing out. Those percentages get pretty crazy at this point in the year, but that's the third best odds projected per 538, which is a great resource. Celtics and Nuggets come in first, and the Nuggets just barely edging out the Grizz there. So I think you are talking about one of the top teams in the West, and one that is truly better than the Dubs, the defending champs that they are facing up against tonight. So this is actually a little bit of a revenge spot. They got whacked 123 to 109 in Golden State on a Memphis -7.5 line. And you might say, oh, well, the line in here is working against you to jump all the way to -3.5 in favor of the Warriors. But again, coming off that drubbing with no Curry, no Wiggins, and no Andre Iguodala, tonight Wiggins, I think, will play. Curry's back in the lineup, so you get a little bit more full strength. But I just think you get a Memphis team that is going to be a little bit more focused. So I like them getting the points. Golden State is coming off a loss. Memphis is coming off 3 straight losses. But let's reel back to see what they did before those 3 straight losses. Well, they ripped off 11 wins, and then they decided to go on a West Coast road trip where all hell is broken loose in those 3 losses. Last night against the Kings, or a couple nights ago against the Kings, no Ja, no Steven Adams. You have Ja coming back tonight. You don't have Steven Adams, but that does not matter in this matchup because he would get played and pick and rolled and substituted off the floor anyway. So I think it's actually better that they can go into their depth, not worry about playing Adams, and get a little bit more back on track. During this stretch going to the West Coast, you got to remember you've got a young team on an 11-game win streak, and then you start hitting cities like LA and Phoenix and other things. So I think they've gotten their fun on the West Coast road trip out of the way. You've seen that in the way they've come out in some of the games and some spots they looked. There was allegedly even a birthday in that mix. I forget if it was Desmond Bain or one of the other guys, but a birthday on this road trip that they were also celebrating. So maybe a little bit of shenanigans. And now I think you finally get the refocused matchup. Curry's back in the lineup. They are on the road. They're in the midst of a road trip, but perfect time to refocus and get the win. So let's take the +3, maybe a little bit of sprinkle, or you could look for some live value during the game too. Memphis Grizz.
Odds fellows slapping the bookie like a boom. That's right. Now let's talk my play tonight. Late night degenerate special. And I'm going to be looking at the late night special, the 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's the Utah State team versus the San Diego State Aztecs. And I'm going to be going with the favorite here, San Diego Aztecs, -6.5. And this is the play. Let me tell you why. Let's talk about KenPom stats here. San Diego State is one of the best defenses in the country. Their adjusted defensive efficiency is ranked 26 per KenPom here. Okay. They're going against San Diego State is also ranked 49th in adjusted efficiency offense. And they're going against Utah State team that is ranked 108th defensively as far as their efficiency is. Utah State lives and dies by the 3. They're ranked number 1 in the country. They have 41.5% completion making of the 3s. And they're facing San Diego defense that can defend 3 well. They defend top of the key really well. They held their opponents to 30.9% from the arc. Now you have Utah State defense, going back to them. They don't defend the 3 well. They give up 36.9% to their opponents, where San Diego State, not the greatest 3-point shooting team, but I think they're going to take advantage of this bad defense. They do hit 34.2% of their 3s. Also, you got to look at the stats on this one as far as where these teams are going. Utah State is on a 1-4 against the spread streak in their last 5 games. And the home team, when these two teams match up, 15-5 against the spread in the last 20. And also the favorite is 4-1 against the spread in the last 5. So I'm going to be taking the favorite on this one. I took a lot of favorites today. If anyone's following me on the DadBodd Slack, so if you haven't checked that out, links in the bio. But I'm going to be rolling with San Diego State here, -6.5, and that's I think it's going to be a 1-unit play for me. It kind of fits the mold, so that's what I'm going to be going with the late night special. So Memphis and San Diego State, you put those together, straight bet them, put them in a parlay, whip it up, smack the bookie like this, shooting gunshots everywhere. Scare them bookies. I want to give Case Slater. I did put this up there already. He goes, yes, we do like the elderberry.
Dude, the elderberry is delicious. Yep.
That's the best one. I don't know if you've had Viva, man. I'm telling you, that's the best one. I don't mind the watermelon. I can't remember what the green one's called, but the elderberry is the one that I was like, I wish I opened that box. I'm like, give me the elderberries. That's kind of where I'm going with that one. But that's gonna do it for DadBodd's episode number 108. Oddsfell, thanks for joining me. You're not really on the bench. You are actually a starter. But I'm
a bullpen arm.
You said I gotta fire some plays in the NBA today. I'm gonna do that. And also join us. We have so many shows that are be coming up here. So keep just like, subscribe, and join the channel and hit the bell so you know when we always go live, because everything's gonna be live on this channel. The college basketball show, Breaking Ankles. We had the episode 1 last Friday. We're gonna bring that back this Friday to talk about the Saturday slate. I didn't do so well, but I think Dabby really smoked the board. So I'm going to bring that back, and I'm going to dominate the Saturday slate. Case Slater says, I haven't. Maybe a late night contender special in me. I'll check it out. Go Memphis and Utah. No. San Diego State. San Diego State, not Utah State. Let's make that clear. If I screwed up, my bad. San Diego State's the play, -6.5.
You might have. I think you might have inception Utah State.
I did. No, San Diego State. Sorry.
San Diego State.
San
so the
Diego
Aztecs.
State.
We're taking the
Yes,
Aztecs.
Aztecs. I'm sorry if I, too many states in college sports. So just appreciate everybody for joining. Please like, subscribe to the channel, and please check us out. We have some big news coming up here, but we have to get organized. We have to get straightened out. And I'm telling you, this channel is going right to the moon. Right to the damn moon. So till next time, for DadBodd's number 109, we'll see you. Cash some tickets. Let's dominate. And as always, let's keep dancing.